Hello, my friends. Welcome to another episode of Deep True Crime. I'm Manny Rodriguez. In today's episode, I want to talk about the arrest that has been made around the Microsoft executive murder. Gentleman stopped for a tire in the road. It looks like he was ambushed. Not only that, his 2-year-old daughter was in the back seat. She witnesses the whole thing. Not only that, it looks like there are some more arrests coming around people who were very close to him, including an ex-wife. Let's go ahead and dive into what we know at this time. A 61-year-old felon has been arrested for the murder of the Microsoft executive, Jared Bridegan. Now, we come to find out that there's actually connections between Henry Tenon, the man who has been arrested, and his ex-wife. That's right, the Microsoft executive's ex-wife. You see, we are finding out little by little. A year ago, Jared Bridegan had just dropped off his twin kids with his ex-wife. He would be later gunned down shortly after dropping them off. We come to find out this man that has been arrested for the murder of Jared Bridegan, he actually rented his Jacksonville home from Bridegan's ex-wife's new husband. Henry Tenon, he is in custody on charges of second-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder for Bridegan's killing on February 16th of 2022. Now, his arrest warrant is sealed at this time, and it looks to be sealed for at least 30 days. So many of the details surrounding his arrest around this case, we're not too sure about all of that. So I'm sharing you what little that we are finding out. And Henry Tenon, again, he is only in custody on charges of second-degree murder, not first-degree murder, and a conspiracy to commit this heinous crime. Police, however, said at a press conference today, January 25th, that he did not act alone and that they continue to investigate. You hear that? They said he did not act alone. The only leads that we have had this whole time is this blue pickup truck that they have been looking for all along, and they finally tied it to Henry. And so Tenon, he rented his home from Mario Fernandez. This is the new husband of Bridegan's ex-wife, Shanna. Pictured here is not Shanna. This is the second wife. The couple, they sold the house in October of 2022. The couple being Mario Fernandez and Shanna, the ex-wife. They sold that house that Henry was living in October of 2022. This would be 8 months after the murder and 3 months after Tenon was arrested for unrelated gun charges. Pictured on your screen is the tire that was in the road when Jared got out to move that tire. At this time, Shanna nor Mario have been arrested, but this comes in the wake of them moving cross-country from Florida to the state of Washington. But again, they have not been arrested at this time. And so we're continuing to find out a lot more. And according to Sheriff's record, Tenon was arrested in August of 2022 on unrelated gun charges. He will go before a judge tomorrow on these new murder charges. Now, pictured here is State's Attorney Melissa Nelson, who was also at the press conference today, as you can see. She says, "We know Henry Tenon did not act alone. Honestly, because of his close ties, Henry Tenon is somehow tied to the ex-wife and the ex-wife's new husband. But we'll dive into that here in a minute. Bridegan, he was killed on February 16th of 2022 while driving from Jacksonville Beach, Florida to St. Augustine after dropping off his 9-year-old twins with their mother. Now, his 2-year-old daughter, Bexley, she was in the back seat of that car at the time of this killing. This Wednesday night, this was like their daddy, daughter's, kids' date night. This is something that they did together. This was something they did every Wednesday. So they were doing what is usual, which means that someone knew their schedule as well. Henry Tenon, he is facing life in prison on charges of second-degree murder. Prosecutors today did announce that the case would go to a grand jury and that they hope it will be elevated to a first-degree murder charge. Again, as of this time, it's only second degree. In addition to conspiracy to commit murder and second-degree murder, Tenon has been charged with child abuse. It stems to the fact that Bridegan's 2-year-old daughter was in the vehicle when he was killed. Tenon, he was arrested, as I shared, last August by the same police department on charges of owning a weapon despite being a convicted felon and driving without a license. His previous offenses include felony traffic violations like driving with a suspended license multiple times, along with misdemeanor assault and domestic charges. His long arrest record dates back to the mid-1990s. Now, Jared, he was ambushed by his killer, which we now know looks to be Henry Tenon, who'd place a tire in the middle of the road to ensure that Jared would stop, get out of the car, and walk towards that. And so here we have the house that they lived in, that Henry Tenon was living in, that he rented from the ex-wife's current husband. And so it looks like the killing was planned to happen in a stretch of residential road where there were no surveillance cameras or ring door cameras. You see, the only surveillance footage was this, have you seen this truck, this blue Ford F-150, which was tied to the crime, right? And so here you can see Bridegan and, or should I say, the ex-wife and the current husband. They are seen here pictured together. Mario Fernandez is his name. Now, Bridegan and his ex-wife, pictured here, divorced in 2016, but were still arguing over finances and custody of the time of his death. At the time of his death. For the last year, his widow, Kirsten Bridegan, who was his second marriage, she has been told to stay silent on who she believed might have killed him. This is where he was gunned down on a quiet stretch of this road, which was surrounded by trees in Jacksonville Beach on February 16th. No cameras are thought to have caught this killing. And so, Kristen Bridegan, the current widow, she told DailyMail.com in an interview last April 2022 that he had no enemies for the most part. After his death, Shanna and her new partner, Mario Fernandez, they moved across the country from Florida to the state of Washington. And it's unclear how she actually met Mario and when they started getting together. But Mario, he was previously reported to police for animal abuse, having shot and killed a cat with a BB gun. Here is his ex-wife. And notice her shirt. This was pictured like the first time after his killing. It's fine, I'm fine, everything is fine. I find that to be actually kind of chilling, considering that she may be linked to this. And Shanna, she's now covered in tattoos, was stern and refused to comment on this case, even after it was looming that an arrest was about to be made. last April, Kirsten, Jared's second wife, would not be drawn on whether there were any issues between Jared and his ex-wife, who is remarried and runs a local baking business at that time anyway, right? Because this was a year ago. And you can see some of the map. This is from dailymail.com. You can see at 7:30 p.m., Jared drops off his 9-year-old twins at his ex-wife's home. At 7:50, 20 minutes later, Jared is shot dead while moving a tire from the middle of the road. And you can see the distance between Jared's home with his second wife in St. Augustine to Jacksonville. So it was approximately 30 miles. 30 miles. This guy did everything he can for his kids. He loved his kids dearly. And that's another reason that makes this so terribly tragic. And, when Shanna was describing him a year ago, of course, before she was, fingers have kind of been pointing to them all along. But she said, my husband was a very well-loved man by the majority of the people in his life. He went above and beyond for friends and neighbors. And that's what Kristen was saying last year when this happened. And she also says, I definitely don't feel like it's a time or place for me to discuss someone else's relationship. I know how my relationship was with him, and I miss that. And she said, whoever did this, whoever is behind this is just evil and nasty, and I hope we can find them and put them behind bars if they don't hurt us or anybody else moving forward. And she also added that for the most part, he had no enemies. They had been married for 4 years and met on a dating app. It has since been claimed that the marriage ended when Shanna had an affair with her personal trainer. Now, she denied that claim, but the trainer says their relationship turned romantic. 7 years before his death in 2015, she also asked someone in a local tattoo parlor if they knew someone to help shut her husband up. She insisted it was in jest and that she meant no threat by that. And so, again, this is still an ongoing case. It has just been going. But we do find that this ex-wife had a chilling link to the man who is now charged in the murder. And so this man, Henry, he was staying at their home, renting from them. Henry Tenon, 61 years old, is now facing the murder rap for allegedly killing Jared Bridegan. He lived in the home that was once owned by Mario Fernandez. And so this residence at 5239 Potomac Avenue in Jacksonville, Florida, which is listed as being owned by Fernandez. That's what records show. And so that is a strange coincidence if she had nothing to do with this, right? And so Fernandez had married Shanna Gardner Fernandez in 2018, 2 years after she had split from Bridegan, with whom she had continued to feud about custody arrangements for their 2 children long after their divorce. They had the 2 twins together. And so at a press conference, law enforcement officials pointedly noted that Tenon did not act alone in this murder and that this probe is still ongoing. And I just find it very odd. It's going to be hard for me to believe that they had nothing to do with this, considering that the person who is now being charged actually lived in Mario Fernandez's home at one time, renting it. And so, Now, Shanna and Mario Fernandez had previously been named suspects in Bridegan's death this whole time, but cops made no link between them and Tenon at a press conference announcing that today. They didn't say anything about the connection. This connection, of course, the media is going to do their research. Internet sleuths are going to do their research. Henry Tenon, a convicted felon, he had prior burglary and battery raps on his record. And Gardner Fernandez and her new spouse had vehemently denied any involvement in Bridegan's death, but they did retain a prominent Jacksonville attorney, Henry Cox III, soon after his killing. Now, that is not out of the ordinary. You know, if everyone's pointing to you and you didn't do anything, okay, I get it. But if everyone's pointing to you and you did do it, I still kind of get it, right? You're going to try to do everything you can to stop answering questions. And so her marriage to Bridegan, it previously had dissolved after she cheated on him, as I shared. But despite their court wrangling and all the problems that they had, in an interview with Florida Times Union, Gardner Fernandez emphatically denied having anything to do with his death. And she acknowledged that she once asked a tattoo parlor employee if he knew anyone who could silence Bridegan, but dismissed the remark as I wasn't serious about it. And that to me is interesting, right? Now, Gardner Fernandez, the wife, the ex-wife, she comes from a wealthy Mormon family, and she recently left Florida to go to Richland, Washington with her new husband. And so I find that very odd on its own. But at the same time, why were they leaving Florida? Were they done with everything? But at the same time, you also have to ask, were they onto you? What was going on? Were you afraid that something was about to happen? Right? And so I find that pretty chilling on its own. What will happen next is the main question, right? This is the home where Henry was renting from her and him, mostly from Mario Fernandez. Literally mostly from Mario. It was his home where he once owned, and so now we wait to find out about, will they be arrested? I'm gonna guess that they will, because I believe they have something to do with this. Shanna Gardner Fernandez, pictured here with her new husband. And so she, again, completely denies having anything to do with this. She comes from a wealthy Mormon family. She has reportedly split from Mario Fernandez, and he did not join her in the move. I wonder why. Again, Henry is tied to his home. So we're going to be finding out a lot more. But why did she leave Mario Fernandez, right? I find that interesting on its own. You see, that is where this guy, he was a loving dad. Why would this happen to him? Not only that, but he was gunned down in front of his 2-year-old daughter, Bexley, in what police have definitively called a planned attack. And he had 4 kids. He had 2 with his ex-wife, Gardner Fernandez, and 2 with his new wife, Kirsten Bridegan. Rest in peace to Jared Bridegan, taken from this world way too soon. My friends, please pray that they get some justice in this. We don't want anyone getting away with this. And thank you for joining me on another episode of Deep True Crime. I'm Manny Rodriguez. Until next time, my friends, have a great one. Peace.